serve. And so we just need to be aware of that. And I certainly would like to see that we can get to a point where we can do a 5-year forecast like schools have to do, but where we can look at, our anticipated funds coming in, our anticipated expenses. Our expenses are going to continue to go up. You mentioned with the fire department, there's a possibility of having a couple new hires in that department. We're going to see that in all departments, and then the wages are going to continue to go up. So we need to start planning today for 4 years from now, for 5 years from now. Where do we think we're going to be? And again, I'll bring it up again. That's where I think we need a true financial professional to help us with these things.
And just to kind of touch on one of your comments there about reserves, holding reserves. There was a lot of discussion on that about fund balance, and there was a lot of back and forth about what this year's budget is and if it eats into any of the fund balance. And the department managers were aware of that. And Chief Leslie mentioned that numerous times that he's holding on to every bit of that reserve that he can because he never knows when he's going to really need it. So the department heads are aware of that. That's nice to see.
Sure.
But I agree with you 100% on a forward-looking forecast, especially when you talk about the fleet and having that equipment cycle. The fire department does that, the police department does that, obviously. The police department moves enough. The police department does enough. Has a big enough fleet that their vehicles kind of cycle on an easier pattern. But especially with paving, those big expenses, that it would be nice to know now where we will probably be at for paving in 2027. Now's the time to start thinking about that and understanding it. And if we're going to have to come up with another revenue source, now's the time to talk about it. It's not the day you need it. I agree with you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll close the Finance Committee meeting at 6:25. Again, thank you both for attending this meeting. It's very helpful.
Well, thank you. Over for John. The pending legislation we have is ordinance number 23001.
And
Yes,
it
it's
is,
true.
oh, sorry.
It's okay, man.
626, and we'll open up the Law and Ordinance Committee. We have pending legislation for ordinance number 23001, an ordinance to amend Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the New Franklin Zoning Code. We have the new red line proposal up on the website for Articles 1, 2, and 3. Mayor Epson says our email last week, so I'd like to open it up for conversation, questions. But my thought is, since we can make changes ourselves, that maybe tonight we should get it put in place.
I didn't have any comments on the one that we got sent back to us. It seems that the 10 to 14 was changed, and the paragraph was added back. And so the stuff looks like it was addressed. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I have a couple using Terry's email that she sent to us a few weeks ago regarding this, and going through it with that in mind. We have me not being able to move it. There we go. In section 200.2, I think. Yeah, section E, public notices and hearing. There's nothing in there about the newspaper posting. All the other public notices and hearings throughout the thing talk about the newspaper posting 14 days before, whether it's just been overlooked or whatever. That I believe needs to be added. I can't see a reason why it wouldn't be a part of that.
I didn't see that in her comments. What section is it?
Section
It's still on 2. I'm sure it's there.
200.2 E1A. Get off that. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Page 11. That's easy. Baby.
Now,
So if you look further and to other public notices under other sections, the first one, the A, is always the newspaper. And then the second, then B is the mail notice, that in this case is the newspaper part isn't in there.
Well, I just wish someone had said that last week, instead of waiting until tonight, because we could have made that change. But we'll take another turn, and we'll add it.
Can we,
This really shouldn't be this much of a mystery, you know, we're open 7 days a week.
Is that a change we can make though?
Give us a call.
can we,
I apologize, I didn't look at this until late last night, so.
well, can we make that as noted, as amended?
Excuse me, I apologize, I don't mean to be rude.
No,
We've been,
it's frustrating, I understand.
you know, yeah, even the earlier ones, you know, the phone call, we missed a word. Tell us.
Yeah.
What
You know,
was it?
Well,
we'll
it's part
put
of
the
the
word in. You
It's
know what
part
I'm
of
saying?
our email from a couple weeks ago.
Is that one of the verbiages that can be changed after?
That's what I was gonna say, because there was a comment about typos.
Yeah,
I
there
agree.
was-
Again, I apologize. We want to get this right. There's real no urgency to it. We can take as many readings as we need to. I just,
Oh, it should be easier.
That wouldn't be a typo. if it-
No, we're gonna have to add
That much would be
All right.
a typo.
probably,
Probably at least.
yeah, it's in the little grid, but it's not in the body of it. You are absolutely correct. Public notice, mail notice, posted notice, electronic notice.
Well, he's looking at that. I guess I'm curious if we had any public comment now that it's been out on the website. You know, we have heard criticism of the city for years that, you know, things happen and nobody knows about it. Of course, now people are saying they didn't get their survey. You know, this is that opportunity for us to go slow and push it out to the community and let everybody know. And I'm curious if anybody's had any feedback from the community. Carrie's extremely, we're grateful for Carrie's efforts because she's come through it a lot.
She has.
No, we're gonna have to add a phrase here. It's gonna be, there'll be an additional, there's 3 sections under E1, and there's gonna have to be a 4th section to address the publication. Electronic notice posted on websites and sponsors, city sponsors, social media sites.
Well, other than.
Why don't we'll take a look, and, we'll take a look through the public notices on each of these. As you know, there's about,
Yeah, it
5 or 6 criteria.
Be on every one of them except this one,
yeah.
so.
So other than the postings with the newspaper, was that the only thing? Does anybody else have anything else?
Well, in 2 weeks will be something else, I'm sure. That's how this council works out.
Another thing, then on the next page, on section 200.2 E, B, where it's posted notice, and it talks about a sign being posted in front of the property for zoning change before the planning and zoning. And Terry had mentioned in her email about having a sign out there prior to council meeting in the council's public hearing about a possible change. And I feel like that might be a good idea. We notify neighbors, immediate neighbors about the council public hearing, but we don't, that sign is not there. I believe Terry suggested that the sign should remain from the PLZ, or PZC, public hearing until the council thing. I don't know if it needs to stay up the whole time, but it's just a question of should it be up prior to the council meeting and public hearing?
So it's up for how many days for the PZ?
14.
And does it need, I mean, at that point, I think everybody's already notified.
Yeah. I've just thrown it out there, whatever you guys think.
And I think most, like I've had a variance to build my garage and I let everybody in my neighborhood know. I'm not sure that Jack over when he lived on Grove Road needed to know that. So I'm not sure, you know, the direct people around where the project's going on, because, you know, they're the ones that live with it. So normally that was the people that get involved, and I had people actually come that supported Toll Hunker Garage, which was nice, and that don't normally happen, but I'm not sure that we have to leave that sign up
Okay,
for another 2 weeks. I mean, that's
I
my
thought the
opinion.
14 days.
Yeah,
I think
that's sufficient.
that's fine.
I also think the signs are kind of unsightly, so, and if there would be a delay in time and you end up with a sign that's sitting there for a month, I just don't think that's what we want in the community. I love the sign idea. I think that is a huge step forward for Newton, you know, because a lot of people, you know, we're a bedroom community. We have a lot of people that come home and, you know, they work 60-hour weeks, they come home, they go to sleep, and they don't hang out and talk to their neighbors a lot. So to have a sign that draws that out, plus getting the mail and all that kind of stuff, I think it's adequate.
Okay. The last thing I have is, section 300.5 zoning enforcement. And again, this is based on Terry. Section 2B, if a violation is not remedied within 14 calendar days thereafter, a zoning violation action will be filed with the Barberton Municipal Court or another court of competent jurisdiction. Her point is, should that be zoning violation action may be filed as opposed to will be filed, to not put the city, you know, to allow flexibility.
As I mentioned in my email from last Friday to all of council, the take on that is this, that the only mandatory word is shall in the law. So this doesn't bind us to take the action.
Okay,
We could say may, but we like the idea of will because it has some emphasis for the person that we're trying to get in line. And when they see it, maybe it carries a little more weight than may.
okay,
But shall is the only mandatory in the law.
okay.
And I guess we're being flexible on this sign, I don't think we need to be flexible on enforcement. You know, so,
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's like, yeah, if we do it, we do it. We can do it after 14 days. We're not gonna be flexible on enforcement.
okay.
That's my opinion, that's my opinion.
I'm just
I'm
working
saying
along,
my
so
opinion.
I'm comfortable with whatever.
Yeah. We've been flexible for too long. That's why we get properties that go for years with complaints. We gotta get to a point where if
Right.
you're in violation, we need to just go and take care of it at that point.
So it sounds like the only thing that's really the hang up on passing this is that portion of a phrase. Can that be amended to it tonight, or does it have to come back and it's?
Well, we could pick the language up.
You know, just copy and paste.
Yeah, well, what if we had another resolution to amend it? I don't know if that helps or.
And we have the right to do it.
I thought we could amend it
That's
and then,
Pass it as amended.
Yeah, you know, certainly if you're comfortable with that, I mean, we can read it in. It would become, it doesn't really matter what order it goes in. We have an A is mailed notice, a B is posted notice, a C is electronic notice, and we could amend section 200.2 E1 to add a subsection D, which would read, and I can give it to you later, publication notice. Notice of the public hearing shall be published in at least one publication of a newspaper of general circulation in the city at least 14 days prior to the date of a public hearing. In addition, the notice shall state that the public may examine or obtain copies of the relevant text, maps, plans, reports, and agenda relating to the hearing at the zoning department office. So if we added that as a subsection D, you can proceed on it tonight if you choose.
what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it would be fine.
I think it would be.
I
I
really
think
do.
we need to, we need to concentrate
on the next.
the next articles coming up.
Robert, are we recording? All right, So, if not, somebody needs to get all of that written down.
Well, Margaret, that wrote down a bunch of.
I wrote down that 200.2, I don't know if I can read what I wrote. So I guess if there's not any other comments, questions on this, I'd like to move forward with it later on, but it is, well, I'm sorry.
Real quick, since we're on ordinances and stuff, and we're talking about the zoning stuff, do you guys want to talk about the meeting tomorrow and the email that was sent out with sections 4, 5, and the other ones? You want to talk about it here in the workshop, or do you want to talk about it in new business? 'Cause I just had a couple of comments I want to bring up about the proposed for tomorrow, because I'm going to go to that meeting. I want to kind of get council's,
You want to do it now? Go ahead.
yeah, I just want to kind of get council's feedback on this as well.
Before you start, if I may, just interrupt real quick, let's finish up with the ordinances, see if anybody in the audience has any more questions. I think the mayor had a comment for the ordinance now, and then we.
Okay, I thought we were
Fine,
No, we're
yeah.
done with that.
Well, I just wanted to apologize to Mr. Kotz, and I did not mean to be rude and abrupt.
I'm used to
I've been
it.
seeing this thing in my sleep. I can't tell you. And it's been a piecemeal type of thing. And I think we're trying to encourage a little better communication in terms of trying to correct things. I know everybody's trying to follow the proper protocol. And I know everybody's schedule's busy too. And you didn't get a chance to see it, and I understand that. So I apologize for that.
Okay, no, okay, good. Anybody in the audience have any comments?
All right, so a couple things I wanted to bring up on, tomorrow's a workshop starting at 6:30. It's going to go over 4, 5, 6, 11, 14. The email that was sent out and the document that was sent out, it actually stated that Article 3 was in there as well, which we just now talked about Article 3, so I think that's just a typo on
Well,
the
there's
cover.
one section, Article 3, it's the nonconformities. And we're gonna have that in the proper form, and there's a placeholder in Article 3 that you're gonna be considering tonight, 300.6.
Okay.
It reflects that that's still, and there just were there's some verbiage in that needed to be corrected before it went to the public hearing with planning and zoning, that's why it got pulled, so that's the only part of 3 that's up.
Yeah, that was a question about the grayed out portion of what we would vote on tonight.
Right.
Okay, that's non-conforming.
Exactly.
So my question here is to council, we're looking at doing this in multiple phases, this zoning diagnostic, if you will. And it was my understanding that the first phase that we're currently in is to look at the things we've had a bunch of variances on and to kind of organize our existing land development code and not to add anything really to the existing code that makes any drastic changes. And that's the impression that I was on. I didn't know if council was on that same impression or not. The reason I bring this up is in looking at the articles that were sent out, we're adding a whole new housing stock to the existing zoning code. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's not what I expected in this portion of this diagnostic. We're adding in attached single-family dwellings in a few different of our building areas, residential areas. And we're even adding it into, I think it was B2, if I remember right.
B1.
Is it B1? Yeah. So I don't know if this is the time to do it. I thought we'd do this more in the second phase when we're talking about the housing stock and chickens and everything else. So that all goes back into now we're actually making changes to it versus organizing. So if I could just get some feedback from you guys, am I wrong or is this am I thinking right that was our impression of what we're doing this first phase?
This is what we've talked about before, is our understanding, at least I believe our understanding, Fred's duty was to just organize and clean up and make things more user-friendly for citizens and to get in there and find what they want without having to look at, a bunch of different places and not make major changes, not make any zoning changes as such. I don't think, I agree with you, I don't think this is the proper time for things like that. We need to get the code right first, and then we start looking at what changes may or may not need to happen, and make sure those are well publicized so we get plenty of feedback for public hearings. I don't believe this is, I agree with you, I don't believe this is the time.
Yeah, there was just some, there's some extra verbiage added in on this. Like if it's in a B1 district, how the situated residential will be as far as the top floor, garage is not facing the street and stuff like that. And I think it's some well thought out stuff. I just don't know if it
Right.
this is the right time to do that. Now, I understand we're looking at, some potential development down the road, but I would rather take this in a more methodical, slower step, make sure everybody's getting to see this.
Let me make one little comment that I do remember. If this is a topic that we've had a bunch of variances on,
But it's not.
that's my point, is that, yeah, if this is something we haven't had a bunch of variances on, but that was the goal, was to look at where we're constantly doing variances and get that in the code, because it's how we believe as a city, so let's get it in the document.
Right, so this is attached single-family dwellings, which they define in here as up to 3 attached single living units, like townhomes. Which I think there's a place for that, but I don't want to get that buried in the details and try and organize it, and that's just something that's added in there.
And it also appears like we're doing something now for something that may or may not happen in the future. There's nothing been presented to us about any development anywhere in the city. So I don't know that, again, that this is the time to do things like that.
Terry, what are your thoughts? Okay. Judy?
I gotta agree with you, this is not something that was mentioned before. Well, why do you think it was mentioned now?
Yeah, good, I'm glad you asked.
He's been chomping that bit over there.
Yeah, well, no, I want to explain,
I wanted,
no, first of all, as it was presented, and you're absolutely correct, and where the phases were supposed to be, and we see some language that's going to clear up, I think, or potentially avoid the need for all these variances in ERL. So that was the intention, and that's the part that's built in. When I saw this, had the discussions with Fred, attached single family, the discussion, and the thought pattern goes like this, and it was, it presented to me this way. We're going to have several opportunities to have a discussion on this, but the idea was to consider to be somewhat proactive. We are one of the very few, maybe the only, municipality that doesn't have a land use category for attached single family. And attached single family, under the definition, is owner occupied, requires a separate lot for each. It's not condos, not townhomes. They're side-by-side units, like you see, like where people from New Franklin that want to retire here and downsize, they move to Uniontown or somewhere else that has these, okay? So each one has a separate deed, and they're all owner occupied. So we expect, it's not everywhere else. We have reason to know that it's going to be suggested. Okay, we know there's a development coming. We've had preliminary discussions. There haven't been any plans submitted, but the anticipation is that it's going to be suggested. So the question became: do we try to be proactive on it? Do we, as a planning and zoning commission, and as a council, say, okay, if these are coming, here's how we would like them to be? Or do we wait for a developer to come in and say, here's what we want to do? If they come, and they almost certainly will, with asking for some attached single family, and we don't have that category, then it's going to require a zoning change. And we're going to be right in the middle of a discussion, the very same discussion, as to whether or not we're going to allow these or whether we're not going to allow these. But we're going to be dealing with the criteria that they're giving us, as opposed to the city saying, here's what we think they ought to be, if they're going to come. And so it is, it'd be disingenuous to say it's not somewhat reactive to the fact that we know it's well known in the area that, the development is going to be proposed down there. We've had those discussions. So the idea was maybe we get ahead of it. Fred has I've talked to Fred about it. He said, hey, if they don't want to do it right now, fine. But we probably won't get around to this again until next spring or so. And in the meantime, we're probably going to be dealing with a zoning change. If you decide to go this way with it, you got an opportunity for a full discussion. Do you even want these? All right. It would start with the workshop. And there'll be plenty of opportunity for the public to have that discussion. For planning and zoning to have that discussion. What does this look like? Where do you want them? Do we want to allow them at all? And eventually then go to a hearing and give people an opportunity to talk about it. And then either recommend it or not. And now it comes back to you guys, and we do the same thing you're doing with 1, 2, and 3. So, I don't have a strong feeling. Well, yeah, I kind of do, right? I mean, in my experience in situations like this, I just think it's better for the city to get out in front of it. It's going to come. I fully expect that we're going to be dealing with this. And either it's going to be a contractor coming to us and saying they want to build them, and we don't have it in our code. And then we're going to have to kind of scramble around and decide, are we going to allow it or are we not? And then the second reason I would say this, whether or not it's, I think it's, I wouldn't say the future, but I mean, it's happening everywhere else, you know, and and from the day I walked in here, I've had people asking for these. I want to downsize and I want to have a place to go. And we don't have it here. So, whichever course you take, we're going to be okay.
I don't know that I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying I just think this is the wrong timing for it. That's just my opinion.
You're absolutely, I'm sorry.
And no, I'm just saying that's my opinion. But I'm looking at this not just as I'll call it the water line. There's other areas in New Franklin. You got, and I'm not saying they're going out of business or anything else, but you've got Harrison Park over there that has a large chunk of land that this could affect down the road. You've got the place over behind your guys' place, that island out there, if you will. There's a bunch of different areas that, in tightly knit neighborhoods where this could change the character. And I just want to make sure we're thinking about this well before we pass this through with all the other changes.
No, I agree, and it was not anticipated.
Okay.
Okay, I know when Fred did the diagnostic and he unveiled that, I don't even know if it had already been announced, but the purchase was hadn't happened at that point in time. So the idea was to do this in more of a slow
Well,
process.
that's where we want to be when we're done with this document. But I say, just my thoughts is I think we may be taking a step too far in some of these things. But I want to get Mark's and Dave's thoughts on this as well.
Well, I mean, if you're not, I guess Amir kind of explained it, if you're not just kind of putting it out there, I mean, at least to have a discussion about it, because there's nothing going to be that we're going to be seeing for a little while on these, right, as far as legislation? A few meetings or whatever, so the workshop might be the time to at least talk about it. There might be some people that come to the workshop that have some opinions.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, just get rid of, I'm not one to just say, let's just get it out of there now. Go ahead to workshop and whatever, to see if there's any, communication about it. Because I do agree with the mayor, if we get out in front of it a little bit, we might decide we don't even want it, so at that point, then you just say you can't have it.
Case closed.
But at least it's, for discussion. And I agree that we even talked at one of the other times, like, we weren't ready to start changing, they just wanted to kind of streamline it, but the mayor's a good point, maybe this is the time to maybe at least, to our attention now, to possibly look at it and see what we want to do and what some of the other people want to do, so.
It may be a little bit like talking about being proactive about the service department. I think this is you're thinking of it as more of a proactive move because you think that it's going to happen, or you're sure of it because it's happening everywhere else. And he's saying, discuss it now, at least get what you think about it on the table, as opposed to just shutting it out. And maybe that's what Fred was thinking, I don't know.
Well, I think that's it, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if we want to consider something like this quickly, sooner than later, I think it should be separate. I don't think it should be part of this process. I don't want it to appear that we're trying to sneak something in. So I think we, because it is a zoning change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or creating a new zoning code or class or something like that.
It's a new land use category. It's not a change of any of the zoning districts.
Okay.
I mean, we got single family, 2 family, 3 family, 4 family. We just don't have attached single family.
Okay.
So it would be to add an additional category.
All right.
So would that category, would that be okay to build on any area that we have zoned now?
And no, the way it's proposed, the way it's suggested is a permitted use in R3 and an RL, and a conditional use in B1. And let me take a step back. I'm not endorsing this. I mean, I think the idea. I mean, I think it should be there for discussion. Okay. And again, Mr. Kotz, I think the whole vehicle here, the council's done a good job of it, of making certain that nobody gets surprised. You know, there's plenty of discussion. We're having it tonight. You know, there's gonna be a workshop. I'm guessing with that there will probably be more than one workshop before they even get to a public hearing. And then when they get past the public hearing, then it's coming to council. You know, council's gonna do 3 readings at least. So there's gonna be plenty of time for discussion. And anywhere along that path, if you decide to jettison it, you do. And say, we'd rather look at this later on. You know, where I'm coming from is this, and I'm trying to conceptualize, we don't have it. The developer comes and says, I want them, but it's not permissible in our code. So now they have to move for a code amendment. They move for the code amendment, asking to be amended the way they want, and we're going to be in the same process. We're going to be in that same process. So it's, do we do it now or do we do it later, or do we, maybe it won't happen at all, but then that takes me back to the point that probably we're going to want this at some point. So is there any harm in addressing it at this point? And I want to make it clear, I totally defer to whatever council decides on this thing.
I completely agree. We need to have that in our code. I 100% agree that I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way and that there's no perception of trying to sneak something through or, that we did it at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So, but I'm comfortable with having that as part of our code.
And I don't know what planning and zoning will say about it. They may not like the idea, initially.
I think it's important to note that it could be pulled out by council. So the debate could happen, the discussion could happen, that discussion will be remembered, it will be recorded. Then as we get to the end, we can pull it out, and then at least we've had some public discussion, and then we're gonna have public discussion again. So there could be a little bit of a benefit in leaving it in, at least in the beginning process, where conversations happen, knowing that we're probably gonna pull this out because our intention is not to change the code today. But we'll have had some debate and some discussion, because, I'm gonna say this, I don't know how many times, as long as I'm up here, people are saying they didn't get a survey. So it takes a lot of effort to push out into the community these ideas. Or people have that standard criticism to say, they slid that in, look, they were working on this project, and look how they slid that in. So I agree with the concept that it should not be in the final legislation. I guess I'm okay with having at least a couple workshops where it gets talked about. Might get shut down there.
Or it could be, everybody's on board with it.
It very well
You just never know.
So I'm not going into it like, we're gonna talk about it, but we're definitely gonna pull it.
No.
We're gonna talk about it and see how it comes out.
Feel one open mind.
Council will be in control of the process all the way to the end.
My point of bringing this up, just make sure everybody's aware of what's in there and we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
That is my main focus for bringing that up. And one last topic on tomorrow's workshop, is that gonna be recorded, do you know, or not?
Yeah, it can be recorded.
All right.
I think it definitely should be.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for Robert's plans, is that?
No problem.
They generally do a verbal record. Barry does that.
Okay.
So if you want video too, then it's up to you.
So he does record them, that recording would be available. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be live streamed.
Okay.
So
So just whatever Barry uses with the recorder.
Although that might not be something that he, just to let you know, it might not be something that he keeps. It might only be used for the purposes of transcribing. No, I don't mean the video part. I mean,
I like the video idea.
his recording.
Yeah, I like the video idea far more. Everywhere does it. We're talking about doing things because everybody else does it. That's something everyone else does. We're on an island here when it comes to not recording stuff.
And we've talked about upgrading our equipment here so that we can easily record live stream all the board meetings.
Start having committee meetings here.
Right, everything. Yeah.
So recorded or recorded and live stream?
I don't think it needs to be live streamed.
Just recorded, just so there's a record.
So there's a record. And
Okay.
it should be, in my opinion, it should be available on the website.
Yeah, we'll post it online.
I mean, if it's no big deal either way,
Sure.
then you can live stream it if it's no big deal. Not difficult to do either way, but otherwise. video record of it.
No other questions, concerns? Then I will close the Law and Ordinance Committee at 6:58.
That was an hour committee.
Hey, new guy, can
Yeah.
you shorten these things?
Way to fumble. Way to fumble that one.
Good job.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome you to the Wednesday, October 18th, City of Franklin Council meeting at 6:59. Everybody rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ellen, would you give a roll call, please?
Mr. Cox?
Present.
Mr. Hargit? Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Mr. Webb?
Present.
Mr. Stock?
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 4th meeting.
Second.
You have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Same.
Dang.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Abstain.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the financials for September 2023, subject to audit.
Second.
You have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Thank you. Motion passes. Anybody in the public have anything that they'd like to talk about? Any comments, questions? Concerns? We will begin with our first reading. That will include resolution number 23R80.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for Federal Surface Transportation Program, STP funds, programmed by the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, AMATS, to improve paving on South Turkey Foot Road and State Road and declaring an emergency.
Yeah, this was discussed during our Streets and Drainage Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
You have a first and a second?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-R-80.
Shelley, we have a first and a second?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes. Motion passes. Resolution number 23R81.
A resolution authorizing payment of funds to Grace Bible Church for participation in New Franklin, Ohio EPA water project and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Finance Committee. We discussed this in our Finance Committee meeting. I make a motion to waive the 3.
Second.
You have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 23R81.
Second.
You have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Motion passes. Resolution number 23R82.
A resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the police district fund and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the 3 readings on resolution 23R82.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
We move to adopt resolution 23R82.
Second.
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Resolution number 23R.
A resolution creating a separate special revenue fund for the Cleveland-Maslin Road project and authorizing appropriations to the Cleveland-Maslin Road Project Fund, Fund 2060, in the amount of $551,880.60 and declaring an emergency.
This motion was presented in the Finance Committee meeting. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 reading.
Second?
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 23R83.
Second?
We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Resolution number 23R,
That was it.
ordinance number 23001.
An ordinance to amend Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the New Franklin zoning code.
This was brought forth to the Law and Ordinance Committee with an amendment to Article 200.12, Section E1 by adding subsection D. I'd like to move a resolution to adopt this ordinance 23001.
We need to read in with the,
Yeah, that subsection,
I was going to ask him after the meeting.
all right, and that subsection D would be to add publication notice.
for the newspaper.
Yes. Yes.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Motion passes. And Paul, it's time for our favorite portion of the meeting now.
All right, here
What
we
can
go.
I say? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Always ready. Not always effective, but always ready. Oktoberfest, what a wonderful time we had. Almost 800 people. And, boy, and tremendous work by our volunteers, some of whom were seated here. We probably had 20, 25 people help out with that. And the weather was horrible, but then it was good, then it was horrible, then it was good. But people showed up and they had a really good time. And the performers, German Family Society, were fabulous as always, and the band, so it was a good time. The next up is a Christmas event. That'll be December 10th. That's a second Sunday in December. We moved to the 10th to not conflict with what Coventry Township does at the Clock Tower. So we want people to be able to enjoy both of those events. We've got plenty of surprises planned for this one. We're going to have a live nativity. Yeah. So, and we think we got either sleigh rides or something like that. We had hay rides. Boy, thanks to Matt Hicks, by the way, who came out and did the hay rides again for the Oktoberfest.
I met him on the way over. He was
Yeah.
coming out.
And I mean, that was from start to finish. Had just, and they were busy. So we want to thank him for that as well. Okay, Trick or Treat is coming up Saturday, October 28th. I believe all the communities are doing theirs on that Saturday. The times for the different areas are on our website. And we'll write about that too, but it's going to be Saturday, October 28th. We had a visit from Brazilian police officers. Not because we had done anything wrong, but they're touring. I don't know how extensive it is, but certainly parts of different departments in Ohio, and they selected a variety of ones they asked to visit, and we were one of them. Because they wanted to get some of the bigger ones and some of the smaller ones, and just a delightful group. Unfortunately, they spoke Portuguese, but they did have an interpreter, and we welcomed them here. There were 12 officers, and it was a really nice event, and we're glad we sent them away with some patches and some pens and some memorabilia, and it was a nice event. So that came up 2 days ago. Sewer funding, we're waiting for the OPWC, we're waiting, and then it'll be after the first year for the rest of the funding, so we're still in place with that, and we're just doing a countdown, and doing everything we can to make sure that happens. They definitely get that first leg up there. Get the pump station in and get it up there to 93. The Parks Commission met last evening, and they've been able to do so many good things. And we discussed this at the budget meetings. Projects that are on deck for 2024 include a pavilion at Grill. We've got the design work done. It's not going to be as extensive as Sisler because we don't have quite the need. We're not looking at lights and electric. Be a place for the people to get out of the sun. Maybe have some neighborhood picnics. When the kids are playing ball, there's a place for them. So it'll be a nice pavilion. The plans are drawn. We do not. We anticipate that expense is going to be somewhere around $35,000. We do not have to go out for bid. That bid minimum went up from 50 to 75,000. So we're well within that, but we're still going to go out for requests for proposals. So we had Kevin Noble draw up the plans, and we'll send that out. But we're going to wait till after the first of the year because normally they're good for about 90 days. So that's going to happen. We've got some quotes on playground equipment to put some playground equipment out at Grill, put some playground equipment at Sisler as well. The Parks Commission is going to continue to talk about where exactly. The notion is to have something in the area of the ball fields, not too far from the Larry Ray Pavilion. We're still eyeballing that and having some discussion on that. Again, that'll be a 2024 expense, so that's something that we'll do in the spring. Also talking about, we should be able to do within budget a walking trail at Sisler. So we had some discussion on that last evening and where that will go, and we'd probably be utilizing some of the school district's land, depending on how big we want to make this thing. So that discussion is going on. I'm going to reach out to the schools and talk to them, but we already have some people that are doing that, but without a trail. So we think that would be a nice thing. A lot of folks like to do that when the kids are playing ball. They want to walk around there. They're waiting for the kids to get out of school or whatever. So we think we can get that accomplished as well in 2024. And probably next up is a permanent restroom down there at Sisler. We think there's a need. The Parks Commission thinks there's a need. We got tennis. We got pickleball. We got 8th grade football plays down there, or 7th grade. We got all the soccer fields, and it'd be nice to have a building. So maybe somewhere midway with all that activity. So we're actually starting to do some pricing on that. Probably that's going to be a project for 2025, but it depends on how we do on the other projects and what kind of funds we have available. So I think really, all in all, turning that Sisler area, that park, into a really all-purpose park that's going to serve the community for a long time. And I don't know if you guys are going to talk about the comp plan, but all right? No, just that the rollout's coming on Monday, November 6th.
November 8th.
6 or 8? 6.
6. Ooh,
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
And I did send out, we sent out invitations and notices to all of our businesses. And asked them, invited them to please come and share in the rollout of this. And so we're hoping that's a gala event. And it should be. A lot of hard work on that. So we're looking forward to that. That's all I got.
Can I say something, or go back on parks a minute? I've mentioned this a couple times, but obviously not the Parks Committee, but so I'll mention it now. With playground equipment, I always thought, and a lot of us that work in this building thought, that it would be nice to put a little bit of playground equipment in Miracle Park, because that's where the littlest kids play baseball. And they always have siblings, and they're running around, scares us to death, because some of them are run up in the parking lot, and you can't see them over your bumper. If there was some playground equipment out there, that would kind of keep them out there, and their mothers could watch them and the other child that's playing ball, and I just think it would be helpful.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah. I'll take that to them. Yeah. That's all I got.
Thank you, Paul. We have,
Comprehensive plan.
Sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. It's transition. The mayor didn't come to many of our meetings. I think you were visited a couple, just visited, not the meetings.
Not because I didn't care, but I really, and I hope everybody understands that.
Mhm.
I-
Yeah,
I
it
thought it
was
was
by
important
design. Yep.
to stay arm's length from this, that it wasn't.
Correct.
All right.
Now we have a document, so you're allowed to talk about
All right.
it. Give me permission.
Good.
Yeah, November 6th, at Gathers Lakes, 7 to 9 p.m. Hopefully I got that time right. 7 to 9 p.m. Gathers Lakes. I encourage people to come. It's going to be the public rollout. Then there will be on November 15th at 5 p.m. before the regular council meeting that night, a presentation to council. To my, I don't want to say astonishment, it's not astonishment at all. The Facebook conversations this past week about the people who didn't get the survey. It's just a reality. It's a reality of working in government, that you have to say everything 50 times and know that even after that, 5% of the people will say, you never told me that. But I think the effort that went into that survey, the signs, the advertisements, the Facebook posts, there was so much. How somebody is on Facebook and didn't know. My guess is that they weren't on Facebook then, or they didn't live here then, and then they showed up here.
Would it be a little bit like when you tell our husband something and they're like,
Well, we had.
I'm not touching that one. But you could be right.
all I know what I was talking about.
We did.
The comment on that, there's people last year when this was posted and advertised that commented on it then, that are now saying they never knew about it. So
Yeah.
I think that's just a person thing.
It-
We all have a tendency to do that.
It's a human thing,
Yes.
and we are government, and we have to serve all, even those who don't see what we say when we say it. But, with regard to the comp plan, the meetings were open, it was talked about publicly. I really am proud of the document. I think a lot of work went into making it transparent, the way the data was collected, and we took extra steps. Mr. Sedlak did, pushed pretty hard that he wanted that transparency, and we got it. And I think the city's better for it. So I encourage people to come out on November 6th, 7 to 9 p.m. Gathered Lakes, and then November 15th, 5 p.m. here. And that's
What's the second day?
November 15th.
It's our council.
So the second council meeting in November.
It would be at 5 p.m. Paul, just before the meeting.
Okay. And anticipated discussion at that time or another rollout?
Presentation.
Presentation, like a formal presentation to council. So the Gather at the Lakes is a little more of a public launch, and then a presentation to council. And I don't know why they wanted to do this separately, other than make sure that we were all here to
I'm saying
say.
that's at 5. I might not be able, but if I'm working in Cleveland, there's probably no chance of me being there at 5. So I could have done it later, I would guess, if it was just for council.
Yeah, well, I mean, the talk was just like we do a lot of the workshop stuff before the council meeting is the thought.
It'll be filmed, you can watch it.
Yeah, it will be fun. That's
We always better.
I thought they were doing either or, but all the more the merrier. I did take a look at I'm sorry, Jack.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
That, last time around on this, council's role would be to either adopt or choose not to adopt that plan. It's not an ordinance, it's not a resolution, so there won't be an ordinance or a resolution to do that. It'd be a motion to adopt the plan. Then voice, roll call to that. Whether they're ready to do it. Whether they're ready to do it that meeting or do another meeting.
The plan itself doesn't become law, but it is referred to that it should be a guide, because it was so much effort went into getting the community buy-in.
And one of the things that was pointed out back in 2001 or 2 when we started this, as you're aware, it's a valuable tool to control the community's destiny. That if somebody wants to come in and do something contrary, and it turns into litigation, There's some teeth to, this is not only just council says we don't think this is a good idea. You know, this is the message that the community gave us. So that was really what was communicated to me all those years ago. That's where, you know, one of the primary needs and benefits of that plan. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Susan? Just one thing to talk about, very briefly, about the budget that we were doing. Thanks to Mr. Daniels and Mr. Powell for being at the meetings. We had lots of discussions and they were really fruitful. And so that's how you got your updated draft. Just so you know, Mr. and this is for Mr. West, for you as well. By the next meeting, you will have a resolution. I will update the draft. As I told Mr. Power earlier when we were talking, I step back from this for at least a few days and then go to it and look at OPNF, OPERS, some of the little things that may or may not be adjusted. We also have a meeting on Friday with our insurance agent on renewals, so I'll have some more information like that. So there may be some adjustments. Any adjustment that I make always run back by the department heads. They know about it. And I would bring it up to you if it was anything, but I take another last look. Then it goes in the form of the resolution. The resolution will look entirely different. It'll just be every fund, and there'll only be 2 lines. It'll be either personnel or other. And that way, that was, the auditor suggested that. That way, if a department head, say, needs a little more in their contractual and they can take it out of their equipment as far as appropriations, we can do that without coming to council and asking you to pass a resolution. We can just do that to get that happening right away and the department heads do come to me and they're say, I'm almost out of supplies, but I didn't use all my equipment's appropriations. Can we move X amount of dollars there? And that's how it's done. So it's there, it's back up, and I do go with them. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that this is going to look entirely different. But you will still have this to go by, and the numbers off that last column are what I'm going to lift off and put in there. You will see every item listed in a short version, and then you will see it an extended version as well. So just so you know, that'll be coming up, and you will receive the resolution before the next meeting, and I expect you to be able to have plenty of time to take a look at it and to pass it whenever you see fit. As long as it's before the end of the year. That's all I have.
Thank you, Susan. Do we have any old business? No? Any new business?
I wanted to bring up something real quick. I know in years past we've done our Christmas light competition, if you will. I know it's not, we haven't hit Halloween yet, so I'm not going to push us out too soon, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of people, discuss is they've had this elaborate Christmas light display out, but nobody knew about it. So what I'd like to do, first, are we going to do that again this year?
Sure.
Okay. What I'd like to do is kind of organize this, and I was going to put something out and start collecting, have them message me their addresses. And I'll put together an entire list and forward that over to the police so we can make sure everybody that wants to participate has a list that they're on, that the police can actually go by and look at this and get them.
That's a great idea.
So, okay.
We thought about doing it for Halloween too. We didn't get it out in front of it, and so it didn't happen. But maybe we can think about doing it for Halloween next year too.
I can work with you on coordinating that.
Okay.
I'll get a whole list together and try to get
We're seeing a whole lot more of that, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah. It's really dark.
No, some neat stuff.
And I did see, I did see some that were pretty impressive that never made the list. So
Yeah.
that's what's kind of driving us.
I have a little bit of new news, and I got a little congratulatory balloon from our fellow council member. So there's nothing is formal, well, other than the recommendation. So if you might have seen in the paper, I received a recommendation by the Summit County Republican Party to be appointed to Bob Young's State House seat. However, I have no control over the timeline. So I may still be sitting here in the middle of the year next year. Who knows? I don't want that to be the case, but the truth is I really don't have much control. So I will continue to do everything that I've been doing. I'm not I'm not changing anything until such point as that is a definite. So if anybody has any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll try to keep you up to date as I hear what might happen.
Yeah, we expressed, we administratively, that we're happy about the party's decision in that regard. That Mr. Danner's done a great job on council. You hate to lose people. But if we're losing, we're losing them to a good place.
We can move somebody right in there, it's got some experience.
Because it's, then I talked about having a voice in Columbus, and it would be really, really nice to have a New Franklin resident to be that voice. Although, as with all residents, I'm sure you'd be diligent representing the entire district. But still, it'd be nice to have our voice down there.
Yeah, one of the reporters that talked to me actually was a little gray on where New Franklin was.
We're trying.
Most certainly did.
We're trying to get the word out. Yeah.
It is the new district.
Be on a map.
They're darn straight.
Yeah,
This new, the new district that will take effect in January of 2025 includes all of the Portage Lake. So it's Clinton, New Franklin, Greene, Springfield Township, Lakemore, Mogador, Coventry, a couple pieces of Akron, a little bit of Kenmore, and Ellet and Winter Heights. So it'll be really nice to have all the lakes in the lake area in one district, no matter who ends up in that seat. Thank you.
Paul, do we have a need for an executive session?
We do nice.
Then I'd like to have a motion for an.
Motion adjourned.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody in the public have anything to say? Now that I've scared you.
Too late.
You can say it, honestly. I won't cut you off. Okay, time's up. Does anyone have anything to say? No? Then I'd like to invite you to our next meeting, which is going to be November 1st at 6 o'clock.